to mailboxes in condos and apartment buildings. The first robbery was the afternoon of September 26th. Again, the next story, in that second case, prosecutors say Cullen pulled a gun and punched the carrier in the face. The local inspector in charge of the Chicago division said the fire was resolved to aggressively investigate those who harmed valuable public property.
Here's Johnny. Thank you. Well, hello there. Hey, hi, social media family. Been of any subscribers and our visitors alike to my own YouTube social media channel and our chat room or comment section. How are you all doing? Yes, being of any of you all who are affiliated or associated with and representing some of such thereof, being the same of the said in question of the former previous or prior mention. What they thought.
Triangle conspiracy theories have been with us for a very long time, just because a story
yes.
is more appealing than the truth. But now
how are y'all doing?
Strange new places.
Well, hopefully, you know, each and every one of you, you know, and your different family members and friends of your different households, likewise, are well, pardon for getting butchering the English language or the American dialect, or qualities and quantities or grammatical usages, and for this here compulsive physical gesture for that matter. It's a word for the verbal sentiments. Otherwise, I never promised to you all that I would speak quite eloquently, or that is, I never promised to have you know, be on the verge of contemplating that of becoming a being. Well, I never claimed to be or have become an English major, so how much less an English professor. But anyway, before I lose my train of thought, I'm going to say something. Yes. I think from where I last left off was I was wishing to say that hopefully each and every one of you is doing okay. You know, you and yours, your family and friends, and hopefully me and mine. Likewise as well, or all the same. You know, yes, hopefully all is well with each and every one of you. Okay. Anyway, though. Yes. Today's or the present social media broadcast, a video at hand. Excuse me. I've been feeling kind of under the weather, and as I suspect that a certain particular proverbial neighbor from down hell, the public nuisance of a problem neighbor, could possibly have something to do with my most recent battle or war with health issues in general, and moving right along, getting back to some such other. Yes. Sorry about that. And whereas the present social media broadcast of video content, yes, well, anyway, though, with a slight interjection, I'll say, whereas I was making reference to the poop butt or pissant of a nutcase and crackpot, or rather cowly, faggoty local drug pusher, who is a resident tenant who resides in an apartment just a couple of few doors down from that of my own on the same floor level in the building here where I'm at in a really bad neighborhood. And being the likes of whom would be complimenting the present social media broadcast video at hand, being of which is involving or regarding making reference to how an off-duty public servant of a firefighter was shot and robbed at gunpoint. He was carjacked by a couple of few assailants or his attackers, whereas 2 out of 3, a couple out of few, 2 out of 3 of them had drove away in an automobile or a motor vehicle, whereas the third one had of a male character of the likes of the familiar usual suspects and our public enemy number ones had fled on foot as a pedestrian. And that is really tragic. you know, so I say, in getting to the present social media broadcast of video content at hand. I mean, how are you going to rob, not to mention shoot, a public servant, a firefighter, or any public servant? But then how were they supposed to know that their robbery victim was someone of that nature? That's just it. They don't be thinking how, they could possibly be robbing, not to mention shooting somebody that could prove to have become or be, in the better interest of a vicinity neighborhood community. A firefighter could, that being as it is a case of situation of a person that could possibly save their lives in the event that a fire were to break out. I mean, why would you do that? Why would you live beneath your privileges, your rights and privileges, to be affiliated or associated with and represent the better half of our own human species in the first place? You would have to be a really low life scumbag, of a poop butt or pissant, like one of my present neighbors from down hell, the local drug pusher, to go about, the fraudulent and criminal means to deprive your fellow neighbor or fellow American citizen and or foreigner of the basic rights and privileges, being of which is affiliated, associated with, and are representing our own species as we have it, humans. And although we are supposed to be the most intelligent of God's creation, creatures, great and small, but then nevertheless, yet we can become or be the most animalistic, whereas the creatures of the animal kingdom, they basically murder or kill, out of natural instincts and for survival reasons or purposes, not like we being of humans or for our own species, and especially for a vicinity area neighborhood community within city limits for where I'm at now, due to the results of developments of another neighbor from down hell in still another really bad neighborhood, having managed to successfully convince real estate prioritizers, administrative representative personnel, to give me the walking papers that he should have received much rather. Instead, after I went through all the proper policies and procedures and protocols to address the issue of his daily and or nightly violations of his own apartment rental lease, and likewise his daily and nightly disregard or disrespect for my own rights and privileges as his fellow neighbor of another resident or tenant. And whereas he flipped the script upon me out of resentment, whereas he retaliated by doing just that, as I had said, convincing the management of a building in a better neighborhood, read between the lines, fill in the blanks, compared to where I'm at in a worse one. Yeah, convincing the management in a better neighborhood, for one that is less poverty stricken, crime ridden, to give me the walking papers, something similar to an eviction notice being of a non-renewal of apartment rental lease agreement memo documented paperwork. And whereas upon short notice, I'm having to move here where I'm at now, just keep from becoming the rank and file, just to keep from becoming the rank and file of the homeless, of daily transit. And whereas now my present proverbial neighbors from down hell among the public problem neighbors are some of such a worse or some sorts of such types of the worstest ones yet. And this here being one of the worst, or my bad correction, one of the worstest of vicinity area neighborhood communities, within city limits, or the city of metropolitan Chicago, Illinois, USA, with all of this, surrounding suburbs. And whereas the likes of these neighbors from down here only remind me of and get me reflected upon this most recent latest news broadcast, being as it is, regarding or making reference to the shooting and robbery, carjacking of an off-duty public servant of a firefighter, you know, being of which I will get back to here and now, you know. But for the present given time, hold that thought, you know. Yeah, if you please. Yeah. Anyway, though, so this off-duty public servant of a firefighter, he was supposed to be reclining in his home or house when he had received intel or info as an information that, you know, some of such two big punks of poop bust pissants of the likes to be compared onto this crackpot, a nutcase of a neighbor from down hell of my own, among the likes, being of a local drug pusher and a dope dealer, was supposedly, allegedly breaking into his own automobile or motor vehicle, you know, and whereas he's supposed to have rushed out of his house or home, you know, to investigate, and then that's when he got shot and then robbed, and then regardless of whether or not they had likewise well or all the same had taken his automobile or motor vehicle, you know. But anyway, that's what had happened, you know. And it just breaks my heart to have to think that these here black and brown brothers, whoever they were, uh, blacks or Hispanics, had done something of that nature. It don't matter what, regardless of whether the firefighter was black or white. Then it's supposed to happen in the Bronzeville Black Historical Centenary community, you know. And I'm like, what in the world? I'm like, why would you go and do something like that? Get a life, you know. You're making the rest of us black and brown or black and Hispanic brothers look bad, you know. Whereas it just get me to thinking how, well, I have this T-shirt, like, right? I yet to find it, you know. Whereas it says something on it, like, say, for example, so I paraphrase, it's not quote exactly. In disregard or ignore what you heard in the background, you know, as I was saying, the present neighbors from down hell I have now are worse or some of the worstest ones yet in this worst or worstest neighborhood communities for the Vicinity area within city limits. But anyway, though, getting back to what I was trying to say before I was so rudely interrupted, was I had this T-shirt that said something like something about, so I paraphrase, not quote exactly, you know, white people, white person, you have nothing to fear coming from me, because if you do fear my person, it would only be a figment of your imagination, then, because I'm like the better half of my own race of people, something like that, you know. So I paraphrase, not quote exactly. Yeah. But anyway, that just get me to thinking once again, and getting back to the original subject matter or the topic of discussion or the given argument to be debated with the many different views and opinions to be affiliated or associated with, representing thereof. You know, again, I'm supposed to serve as a public servant myself. Once again, a political election judge, upcoming primary, if not general one, for our own voting process, an event to be gone about with. And I suppose they gotten that straightened out. It's been upon other matters that ain't come to mind. But getting back to the original subject matter, topic of discussion, you know, and hopefully I'm keeping it in the line of a thought or a format to, and not to hold any of you all hostage, because I would hate to kill anybody's eardrum or bore anybody to death. Hopefully that's not the case with situation as the present day Montana. Hopefully, I'm not to be confused with a character, then of whom would just be rambling or ranting, or like one who could possibly have fallen off the bandwagon of recovery. When it comes to that, the bottle, or worse yet, the pipe. As in drinking, intoxicating alcoholic beverages, some source of such type of quality and quantities, or smoking a drug of choice, my own being that of the Snoop Doggy Frog Hog Wacko Weed, as I had nicknamed it, the Snoop Doggy Frog Hog, as in the Snoop Doggy Frog Hog Wacko Weed, as in aka reefer, peyote, marijuana, as it is much more officially termed by the medical community. Yeah. But anyway, getting back to some of such others. So these assailants or attackers, being of the likes of the usual suspects or the public enemy number one, three of them, whereas no, not one, not two, but three, whereas one would have been enough if one's packing a gap or a piece. Anyway, though, I hope that this here one off-duty public servant firefighter is, well, last I recall, now that I think of it, giving it some such second as we all see it, I think he's supposed to be doing better now. He's been removed off the critical list to the fairly stabilized one, for a local vicinity area medical establishment for its premises properties of a public or private facility of a hospital. Then, whereas he could probably have to do follow-up at a local vicinity area neighborhood community clinic. Then, because he was shot several times, unfortunately. A few or so times, and that's really bad, I mean, really now. How in the world does a person, go about with that kind of criminal activities, Then because if you have an unregistered firearm and you're caught by the police or cops with some of such in your possession on your person, that is considered as a felony. Not a misdemeanor, but a felony, whereas you go to federal court from there, not regular court. And you go to a federal jail, not a regular jail, And whether or not you get time off for good behavior, that all depends on whether or not you are willing to narc on your fellow criminals to get time off, Because that is a severe or serious criminal offense when you are approaching another individual person and you're attempting to rob one, and with a loaded lethal weapon of a firearm, because robbery in one sense would be, like say, or how you say, a severe or serious criminal offense in its own right. But when you are employing the uses of, or using, to simply say, a loaded revolver, pistol, or gun, then the criminal charges are upgraded here, not downgraded, but upgraded, from there. And whereas, therefore, you will have a greater fine and a greater jail term sentence, being a which will be lobbied against you in the greater behalf or in the better interest of the general public or the people at large, After some of such American citizens or foreigners were to petition their local congressmen or politicians to secure their persons much more after some kind of criminal assault, attack, or hate crime as that would have been perpetrated. Hate crime? There would have been a hate crime, It's like one is saying that, how was they supposed to know that that the person that they were robbing is a public servant or an off-duty firefighter. Well, I still would look at it as a hate crime, because you're antisocial. You hate humanity. You hate the general public or the people at large. You think that they are just to be used as prey for you to scope, stalk, and vamp upon or prey upon, much rather than instead prey with. You have an antisocial mentality or mindset, whereas you're not even thinking about what's in your own better interest, let alone not to mention what could possibly be in another individual person's or person's behalf of a fellow American citizen or a foreigner. So a character like that, I will hope that the boys in blue, the big boss man, the fuzz, would be on their butts, their behinds like white on rice, like a black eye on a pea, and catch them before they could possibly cause problems for another individual person of an American citizen and or foreigner, be one employed by the government or city or big business or unemployed for that matter. Reminds me of the time that years ago, my own mother or mom, may she rest in peace, as well as my grandma. Yeah, this late maternal head of a matriarch for my own immediate personal family household was robbed herself. And unfortunately, it was a result of developments then, because I myself, as an adolescent or teenager of an underage male minor or a preteen boy, or whatever the case situation, I didn't go with her at some such given time for currency exchange, place of business. Like, as I was feeling kind of lazy or groggy, sleep. So she went on her own, and she got robbed, and then we became homeless for a while. And whereas one of my male sibling brothers was like saying after that he heard that our mom got robbed, and we had to become homeless to become subject to experiencing that. He had attempted to rob, some other woman as a pedestrian on foot, attempted to snatch her purse. But fortunately, he had second serious thoughts about that and decided to leave it alone. It had to be God talking to him. Yeah. Then, whereas I'm hearing that one of his homies had supposedly robbed, an older man who was just coming back from church, and he squared off and hit this older guy, a fella, with one punch, knocked him out and took his money. And I'm asking my own flesh and blood brother, who was supposed to be with him at the time, I said, well, why didn't you stop that kind of criminal act? He said, what was I supposed to do? If he's bent on robbing the old man, and I can only do so much. What was I? If he's like, like, right? Am I supposed to get into some kind of scuffle with him? If he didn't rob that old man, he could have possibly, be contemplating robbing somebody else for that matter. And that's like saying, if you were to encounter another person who's supposed to be contemplating sexually assaulting or raping somebody else, well, that all depends on the case or situation. You have to consider your own well-being. They tell you that if you are encountering a case or situation as that being that could prove to be a conflict of interest, then you're not supposed to yell out the word rape, but rather the word fire. Then, because if you yell out that word, more than likely, more often than not, you will have a knight in shining armor coming your way, than if you were to yell out the word rape or sexual assault. Help me! Somebody's attempting to sexually assault me. This weirdo, this character, this animal, this monster is attempting to rape me or molest me. Help me, somebody! Please leave me alone! Somebody help me! Then it would be less likely you'll have a knight in shining armor coming your way than if you were to yell out the word fire. Because from there you have everybody saying, we're fine. Be one wanting to play the part of a good Samaritan to help out any victims, supposed so-called victims, who could possibly become casualties of a fire outbreak or not, or could just want to check it out before a news crew were to show up to investigate matters, and the fireman and policeman, Yeah. And on that last note of interest, and getting back to the original subject matter or topic of discussion to be debated, I will give an argument with the many different views and opinions thereof. So, whereas this here one firefighter of an off-duty public servant of that nature was not only robbed, but he was shot in the process of them attempting to rob him. Like I said, two had managed to get away in a getaway car of a ride, whereas the third among them had fled on foot as a pedestrian. And I can only imagine, well, quite naturally, evidently, an APB, all points bulletin, would be put out for each and every one of the usual suspects of public enemy number ones who had perpetrated that, criminal act, a crime against another individual person of American citizen. Maybe one was a foreigner, I don't know. Well, I know one was an off-duty public servant. That much I do know of a firefighter. Fireman, firewoman. No, the victim was supposed to have been a man than a woman, or a male than a female. That's rather tragic. Just as tragic as to be considered of a line of thought, just as much or equally as well tragic as unfortunately, but then this could be the making of a future social media broadcast, then a video content, regardless of whether or not I could possibly be contemplating making it sometime soon, or manufacturing and producing it a nature. More than likely, more often than not, I won't. For the last mention, I know, whereas you all could say, now why is that? Why wouldn't you? Don't you think that would be contradicting your person if you were like some kind of a whistleblower or a person putting out there, important information of intel, or that being of video content of a social media broadcast to inform the general public of people at large? No, not necessarily being that, because some stuff should be left alone for the simple reason being that because suppose another public servant of a police officer, and whereas this one was drunk behind the wheel, was undercover, if you know what I mean, read between the lines, fill in blanks. Now, you see, get what I'm saying? And whereas one could have endangered the life of another motorist or driver or pedestrian, while one could have possibly engaged in a sting operation against criminal suspects or usual suspects, public enemy number ones, of the likes, terrorists or terrorist wannabes, or drug cartel lords, for that matter, well as foreign terrorists, foreign or domestic terrorists, or terrorist wannabes. So, anyway, though, as you all know, I will give you the persons the basic intro as an introduction for a social media broadcast or video at hand, you know, as well as I would greet your person with a salutation, you know, and then from there I will speak upon a subject matter of a social media broadcast of the video at hand. I would speak upon one or a couple, 4 or more for that matter, depending on whether my person I'm using free public Wi-Fi or my own personal Wi-Fi. There's a difference, you know. With a free public Wi-Fi, you can only speak upon a lesser amount of subject matters and have a lesser time frame period allotted to you to deliver a message at hand, compared to if a person were to be using one's own private Wi-Fi, then you can speak upon more subject matters and speak much longer as you feel free to do so, you know. And then last but not least, I will give you all the closing. So I paraphrase and not quote exactly. And by saying in more words or less. If you have not gotten Christ as your own personal Lord and Savior, I will hope that you would think of it with nice intentions to do so now by accepting him as some such for yourself while the blood is still running warm in your veins. And my sympathy goes out to the public servant of a firefighter. And I'm glad to hear that he was not shot dead. But although he winded up on a critical list where it's supposed to be upgraded to fair condition, you know, for a local incendiary neighborhood community hospital, where he could possibly have to, or probably would have to do follow-up at a medical clinic for a incendiary neighborhood community within the city limits, because, you know, he was shot at several times. Anyway, getting back to the closing and all, yes, I will hope that each and every one of you would accept Christ as your personal Lord and Savior while the blood is still running warm in your veins, while the evil days come not. You know, by recognizing and realizing what he, being our Lord and Savior Christ, Messiah, deliverer, had done or did upon the cross of Calvary on the hill of Golgotha. Something at the hands of some Roman soldiers upon the orders of their superiors, religious, political, militaristic, and etc. But then, nevertheless, whereas he went to that cross of Calvary to become the perfect sacrifice, the only sacrifice for you as well as for me. Don't steal my trademark physical gesture. I'm going to have to copyright it sometime unless somebody were to plagiarize it. That's our word, to risk that happening. Whereas if any of us were to profess some such faith in him, regardless of race, walk of life, faction, society, lifestyle preference, age, gender, etc., whereas from there we become and be blessed in one regard and another, more ways one. First and foremost, with his salvation, which is the only fire insurance against the lake of fire down hell. And then second of all, with his deliverance. First, you have got to get his salvation, being not just the more important, but the most important blessing. Otherwise, the final destination will be the lake of fire down hell, to burn forever and be tortured and terrorized by the devil and the demons. In the same line, I thought, compared to how we as believing God will be across that great divide that separates heaven from hell, and the company of like-minded believers in the presence of God and his angels. Otherwise, you all take care and be blessed. We out. Peace.